Staying silent when everything inside you is screaming for justice is one of the hardest battles we face as human beings. Imagine being betrayed by the person you love the most, your spouse, who walks out on you without explanation, leaving you broken and confused. You feel a surge of anger and betrayal. Imagine wanting to scream, curse, or even physically lash out. The urge to break things, to throw things, to do anything to express your hurt is overwhelming. Or think about the crushing feeling when a trusted friend turns against you, a close friend who turns their back on you, spreads lies, and ruins your reputation. You want to set the record straight, to defend yourself because it's unfair and deeply hurtful. Then there's the pain of family. Maybe your own sibling, the person who should protect you, turns against you just like Joseph's brothers. They sold him into slavery, threw him into a pit. Imagine your own flesh and blood doing that. Your instinct is to fight, to prove them wrong, to demand justice. When you lose a job you worked hard for, because someone falsely accused you of something you didn't do, or you're overlooked despite all your sacrifices, it's hard to stay quiet. You want to shout to the world, "This isn't fair." It's even more painful when you know you're right, when you've done everything with integrity and still find yourself being wronged. But in these raw, painful moments, God asks us to do the unthinkable. Be silent. Not because He doesn't care about your pain, but because He wants you to trust Him to handle it. God knows how hard it is to hold back when you're aching inside, when it feels like the world is against you. Yet He whispers, "Let me work, let me fight for you." He's asking us to trust that His way is better, even when silence feels like losing. Look at Joseph. His own brothers betrayed him, threw him in a pit, sold him into slavery. Most of us would have been plotting our revenge the moment we got out of there. But Joseph, he stayed silent. He didn't complain, he didn't shout, he didn't try to justify himself. He trusted God through it all. Can you imagine? It's like God was telling him, "Be still, Joseph, I've got this." And even when he was accused by Potiphar's wife, even when he was thrown into prison, Joseph didn't try to clear his name. He stayed silent. That's powerful. You see, silence doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes silence is the strongest thing you can do because it shows your trust in God. When you stay silent, you're saying, "God, I trust you to handle this." And let's be honest, it's hard. We want to speak up. We want to be heard. We want to prove to the world that we're right. We want to defend our reputation. But here's the problem. When we talk too much, we can become our own distraction. We can get in God's way. Society teaches us that we need to prove ourselves to people, to show the world who we are. But God, He doesn't need you to prove anything to anyone. He already knows who you are, and He knows the truth. That's why silence is golden. Look at the 5 P's in Joseph's life: pit, Potiphar's house, prison, palace, and prime minister. In every situation, God had a purpose. When Joseph was in the pit, God was preparing him. When Joseph was in Potiphar's house, being tested, God was refining his character. When Joseph was in prison, God was positioning him for elevation. And when Joseph finally reached the palace, God's plan was fully revealed. Joseph became prime minister and saved nations. And through it all, we never once hear Joseph complaining, shouting, or trying to justify himself. He trusted God. He knew that even though things looked bad, God was still in control. So let me ask you, what pit are you in right now? What situation are you tempted to speak up and defend yourself in? What if, instead of reacting, you trusted God to work it out? What if, instead of plotting your revenge or trying to prove yourself, you stayed silent and let God fight for you? I know it's not easy. But remember, silence isn't about giving up. It's about giving it to God. It's about trusting that His plan is bigger, better, and more perfect than anything we could ever imagine. And like Joseph, if you stay silent and trust God, He will take you from the pit to the palace. He's got this. All you must do is be still